What up guys, Super Metal 983 here bringing us another Super Metal recommendations, and this is episode 6. I've already started preparations for episode 7, which is going to come in the upcoming future, but it involves around ordering quite a bit of stuff, or else I would have made just a quick double episode, you know. But we're here today to do another Super Metal recommendations, and this one I know follows off from the last one, which was the XL edition, which featured like honorable mentions from 2017 and stuff. And if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you check it out, link down below, and also check out my other ones. I've got a little playlist which I might link down below as well. But I have another 5 albums for you to check out, and this is stuff that I've been jamming quite a lot over the past let's say month or so, even 2 months or so. And I just thought, you know what, these albums, they're really good albums, and I really want to stand behind the camera and in front of the camera and talk about them. So here we are today. So let's get on with the first one that we've got. And if you're into progressive death metal or progressive extreme metal or anything progressive, you'll find something to love about these guys, because these are, in my opinion, quite an underrated artists these days, and I cannot wait for their new album. But I'm talking about Black Crown Initiate with The Wreckage of Stars. Now, I'm going to be honest, this album kind of took a little bit of a while to click with me, in all honesty. Like, even though I own the shirt of this album, at the point when I got it, it wasn't really my favourite album of theirs. It was their previous album, Cells We Cannot Forgive, and I absolutely adored their EP. But for their debut EP, that is, that's still on me want list, very high on me want list. But this album never really clicked with me until I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it the second chance. And then, as soon as I stuck it on, from the first song, A Great Mistake, I knew instantly, like, the whole album. I remembered what it sounded like, and I was like, why the fuck did this not click with us? And if you haven't heard Black Crown Initiate, they're kind of like they're kind of more dwelling into a more progressive extreme metal sort of sound, and I'm not so on extreme metal like the likes of Dimmu Borgir. They're kind of taking away a bit of a death metal-esque to them and becoming a new style of progressive death metal that themselves and the likes of maybe in essence the Faceless and obviously the new Rivers of Nile, which a review will be coming of that very soon, but I'll move away from that. But Black Crown Initiate, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated bands in progressive death metal, if you ask me. And this album is a perfect example for it. The musicianship on this album is another fucking level compared to what you would expect from a very unknown or not very well known band. If you've heard this album, you'll know exactly what I mean. There's a lot of progressive albums, odd time signatures in there that make it so unique. But in my opinion, the best part that makes this a unique release is the combination of those low, monstrous vocals that I absolutely adore those vocals. But the bit that I adore most about the vocals is the cleans done by the guitarist, which I can't remember his name, and I don't think it's anywhere to be seen. But yeah, wow, the cleans are just so majestic, so beautiful, serenading, and just, oh, they just send shivers down your spine when you listen to it. The absolute power and emotion behind them, it's just beautiful. And that's one of the things I've always loved about Black Crown Initiate. But the musicianship is up there as well, especially on this album. With the grooves, there's a lot of groove to be had on this album, but there's a lot of aggression and grit behind it. A very clean production, and this is one of the best sounding production, best sounding productions on an album that I've heard in a long time when it comes to progressive death metal. And I just cannot wait to hear what they have in store for the next album, because, if you look at their past works, their EP was a straight up progressive death metal kind of release, and this one was more or less the same, but maybe going a bit more progressive, just slightly. But then Cells We Cannot Forgive kind of takes on a whole new meaning of like progressive metal, but still having the influence of the death metal in there. But this album is definitely my favourite of theirs so far. It's overtaken Cells We Cannot Forgive, and I think it's on par with Songs of a Crippled Bull. Like, I absolutely love that EP, and I hold it it's just an absolutely amazing release. I might link it down below, we'll just see what happens. But this album is my favourite one of Black Crown Initiate's albums, and I cannot wait for the new one. This is released on E1 Entertainment, I believe, E1 Entertainer. That's them down there. But yeah, make sure you check out Black Crown Initiate. This album is absolutely phenomenal. Alright, next up we have some black metal, and I mentioned this in my last updates and purchases that I was going to feature this in my next super metal recommendation, so we're going to expand upon it. But yeah, this is Urgehal with Aeons in Sodom. Now this was released in 2016 through Season of Mist, and I have no idea who the band was at the time, obviously, and looking into their past discography, I recognise seeing like one of the album covers somewhere. I think it was the album before this, and one of my friends just told us like, oh, you need to listen to them. I was like, oh, I'll definitely check them out, and we'll listen to them. I believe, I can't remember the name of the album itself, but we'll listen to it on the way down, up to Glasgow when we're going to Lords of the Land Festival last year, and I remember being really impressed with it, and I checked it out, the full album, when I got back. Really amazing stuff. And then I saw this on, I believe it was Runnerjma's videos just talking about it, and it really interested us because there's a lot of guest features on this album as like a tribute to the vocalist / guitarist who sadly passed away in 2012, I believe it is. Rest in peace. Trondr Nefas. This album is in tribute to him. But yeah, basically this album is filled with loads of musicianships from Urgehal, but also features some of the biggest names in black metal, paying homage and tribute to Trondr, with the likes of Nocturnal Cult of Dark Throne, Natafrost from Pyrithion Forest, Nag from Testuda, I've never been able to pronounce that, Nicholas from Shining, and Hoist from Taka. A load of big names across this album, and in my opinion, that kind of sells this album for me, as all these artists, like well-known black metal artists that everyone knows them, the legendary, the icons in the whole black metal world, paying tribute to this guy, and the vocals on this album are just absolutely monstrous. Everyone who pays the tribute just does an incredible jobs, and Trondr's vocals on this as well, and riff writing are just incredible. They kind of put me in mind of Lawless Darkness, and as you know, Lawless Darkness is one of my favourite black metal albums of all time, if not the black metal album of all time. And this one has now joined the rank as being one of my favourite black metal albums. I absolutely love this album. I've listened to it so fucking much, and it's created a spot in my heart, and I absolutely love it. So if you're into like it has quite a groovy and quite punchy, crunchy production behind it that gives it a bit of meat behind it, and I think that's what I loved about Lawless Darkness, and this one is definitely up there when it comes to those type of albums. So I might as well just say rest in peace Trondr, and make sure you check out Urgehal with Aeons in Sodom, sorry. Yeah, excellent black metal album, make sure you check it out. Excellent stuff. Anyway, next up, this is just a 3-track EP, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick an EP in here just to mix it up a little like I like to do. But this is Pyrithion with The Burden of Sorrow. Now, this was released, I believe, 2013. Sorry, I was going to say 2012. But this EP came out then, and it's basically Tim Lambesis, formerly of As I Lay Dying, or of As I Lay Dying. No one knows what the crack is with that. Doing straight up modern kind of death metal, and I believe it features members of Elysian on guitars, and I can't remember who else features on it from what bands, but anyway, this EP came out back then, and since then this is still one of my favourite EPs and one of the best performances in my opinion from Tim Lambesis from As I Lay Dying. I know he's done some terrible things and stuff like that, quite unforgivable things, obviously, you know the story. But obviously, As I Lay Dying's discography is flawless, one of the best metalcore bands ever to have existed, in my personal opinion. And Austrian Death Machine, you've all heard that. But I think this one doesn't get talked about a lot, and I don't know why. It's just 3 tracks. It's short, sweet, straight to the point, and just brutal, intense, and just pummeling, if you ask me. It's very modern sounding. I'd definitely say if you're a fan of modern tech death, like Elysian, for example, you'll definitely find something you'll like about this release. In particular, I think it's very gritty, very pummeling, and whenever I've heard As I Lay Dying, I've always thought Tim Lambesis, he would suit a death metal band just doing vocals like that. And this is definitely, when it came out, I was like, yes, he's finally done it. So yeah, if you haven't heard the first track, The Invention of Hatred, oh, it's just pummeling hard and just hammers down, if you ask me. Absolutely amazing. So make sure you check out Pyrithion with the Burden of Sorrow EP, released on the Metalcore Records in 2013. Excellent, short, sweet, and straight to the point. Love it. Next up, the fourth one we have is an album that I kind of forgot about, in all honesty, but I was just on Facebook one day and they announced their new album, and I was like, I haven't listened to them in a while, so I went back to the album that I first discovered of them, and I was just like, I forgot how good these were. And this has turned into one of my favourite albums of all times. Not just in general, not just in the genre, in general, this is an absolute monster of an album. It's powerful, it's punchy, it's gritty, and in some ways it's very powerful and very emotion-filled, if you ask me. And I'm talking about Twitching Tongues with their, I believe this is their debut album, called In Love There Is No Law. Now, these guys have been around for quite a while. I believe they've released... this is their second album. But they've released 4 albums so far. I need to pick up their last album and their new album at some point, but that'll come in the upcoming future. So with them releasing their new album, I decided to go back and check this out, and wow, I absolutely love this album. It's gritty. Excuse me, this is an absolute gritty riff fest, if you ask me. It combines a lot of genres into one. It combines sludge, stoner, a little bit of doom, but the main beef behind it is hardcore. There's a slight bit of beatdown in there for good measure, and there's quite a bit of a death metal kind of hot heaviness, grittiness to it, to the production value, and I think all that into one makes this an absolute monster of an album. It's powerful, and I just absolutely love it. It's just a headbanger's ball, if you ask me, when you listen to this album. There's so many good songs on this. Eyes Adjust, In Love There Is No War, In Love There Is No Law, which is obviously the title track. World War 5. That is an absolute anthem track, if you ask me. Preacher Man, that's another kind of like singy, anthemy kind of song. Absolutely amazing. Deliver Us to Evil, Departure, I believe it's Departure. It's just like, I believe that's the like acoustic-y kind of ballady kind of song, and you're in for a treat when you listen to that song. I feel my hairs on my back and all over my body just stand on end, and it's just like, wow. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be getting this album artwork tattooed on us very, very soon, because I absolutely love this album. I've been listening to it so much over the past, let's say, a month or so since I heard that they had a new album coming out, and I fell in love again, and I cannot wait to pick up a copy of the new album and stuff. But this album is absolutely amazing, and you need to hear it. If you're into Crowbar, Malevolence, I'd say it, and also if you're a fan of Rest Repose, Jared Dines' band, you might find something to like about these guys. But it's really sludgy, very gloomy, but just very powerful, and it's just so good and heavy as fuck. Absolutely love it. So that's 4 releases that we'll talk about, and obviously, as usual, we get to the final release that I like to talk about, and that is the main recommendations of these videos. The last one is the one that I think not many people know about and should be checking out, in my personal opinion. And the one that I've got is quite an older album. This one came out in 2009. So this was at the point where I was exploring new bands and going to see bands live just to check them out and stuff. And I remember going to see this band live on their tour with Annotation of an Autopsy and Trigger the Bloodshed back in the day, called the Dominate Tour. And you'll probably know straight away who the fuck it is. And I remember hearing them and just being blown away by the three bands, because Trigger the Bloodshed brought the fast intensity. Annotation of an Autopsy brought the hammer and the beef to it, whereas these guys brought the riffs and the melodies and the awe. That's the only way you can describe when you saw this band live back in the day. And I saw them on their final tour, which I believe was 2010, 2011. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I saw them on their final tour and it was amazing. And these guys, in my opinion, deserve a lot more recognition than they get these days. But I'm talking about VIATROPHY with their self-titled album. This album means so much to me, along with Trigger the Bloodsheds, The Great Depression, and Annotation of an Autopsy's Before the Throne of Infection. I bought all those three albums within a month of each other, and I've listened to all of them just as much as each other. And VIATROPHY is still my favourite of the three. I think this album is just beautiful and just such a well-written, underappreciated gem of an album from the UK metal scene, if you ask me. Like, if you haven't heard the song, I uploaded back in the day the song Seas of Storms on my YouTube channel, just because it wasn't on YouTube at the time, and I was like, oh, excuse me, I was like, people need to hear this fucking song. And quite frankly, I think people need to hear this entire fucking album, because it crosses a lot of lines between deathcore, melodic metalcore, progressive metal, and also straight up metalcore in general. It crosses so many boundaries to create this unique picture that is VIATROPHY. And also, if you haven't heard their, I believe it's Chronicles EP as well before this, then check that one out also. But this one is an absolute masterpiece of an album, if you ask me. I mean, the artwork itself is amazing. The tracks on this album are incredible. My favourite songs have to be Seas of Storms, Eora. That's just, it's like an interlude kind of song, but it's beautiful as hell. Scenes of Extended Peril, Futile Prayers, that's quite a well-known song. Mistress of Misery, just so many good songs on this album. It's got a lot going for it. It's beautiful. It's quite serenading at points, but it's chuggy, it's punchy, and just all in all, just an absolute masterpiece of an album, and definitely something that I feel as a UK metalhead is something that went around this. The band went far too soon. They had a bright future ahead of them. I would love to see like a reunion thing for these guys, but I know it probably won't happen. But this album is just unbelievable. Easily a 10 out of 10 album for me. If you haven't heard it, I'll leave some links in the description of where you can check out this album. I know it goes on like eBay and Discogs quite a lot, so it wouldn't be hard to pick up a copy, but make sure you check it out. If you're in if you're into all the genres that I've said and you find something to like about those genres, definitely give these guys a chance. It's very, very good. My favourite part has to be the progressive elements in this, the beautiful serenading melodies in there. It just absolutely amazing. So make sure you check out VIATROPHY with their self-titled 2009 album, released on the Sage of Maida Records. Sage of Maida was the kings back in the day, if you ask me, getting with the likes of Martyr Defiled, Annotation of an Autopsy, Ingested, and all that. But yeah, there's 5 releases that you need to check out. I'm going to run them by quickly. We've got Black Crown Initiate with the Wreckage of Stars. If you're into progressive death metal, definitely check them out. If you want to check out some black metal, check out Urgehal with Aeons in Sodom. Rest in peace, Trondr Nefas. I'm sorry. But anyway, Pyrithion with The Burden of Sorrow EP. If you're into death metal or modern death metal, check them out. If you want some like absolute riff fest, Twitching Tongues with In Love There Is No Law. And also check out, if you're into like progressive melodic metalcore and deathcore, definitely check out VIATROPHY with their self-titled album. But yeah, that's all we've got for this episode. Episode 7 will come at some point. I've got a list of the albums that I've got to showcase, but I just need to wait for them to come into the post, and then I'll get behind the camera and we'll do this all over again in episode 7. So I'll see you until the next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.